Those talks really spoke to my passion as a teacher. The year I transitioned from industry to teaching, a famous physician said to his students, 50% or half of what you learn in medical school will either be wrong or out of date within 5 years of your graduation. The trouble is, which half? Nobody can tell you. So the most important thing you can do is learn how to learn on your own. And that's really where the shift needs to happen, so that young people can seek their own answers, find their own questions, and really develop their pathway to their own future. My talk is going to be in 2 parts. The first, a little bit about me and my experience in teaching. The second, on how it relates to the future of learning. When I was a little boy in Switzerland, I had a lot of curiosity, a vivid imagination, ask a lot of why questions. My wife calls my family the planes, trains, and automobiles family, because it's a lifelong passion for us. I'm planes and autos, and my brother's is trains. Yet along the way, tinkering and making things in my dad's garage was huge. And 3 months into my 4 years apprenticeship, at the age of 16, I made this. Doesn't look like much, but it's a lot. It really represents mastery and foundational competencies in the trade of machining. That mastery really helps me to move forward, to do new learning, and the apprenticeship is old school, yet it's also the future. That's the beauty of it. Old school is where we have learning just in case. It's linear, it's siloed, it's artificial. The future of learning over here is learning just in time. It's for mastery, it's dynamic, it's digital, it's AI. It's foremost learning how to learn to be uncomfortable. And the future seldom arrives unannounced. To illustrate that, these 2 graphs by Future of Work strategist Heather McGowan show on the bottom education as we had it. I really want you to look at the top. Now emerging, or really it is now, not just emerging, learning is across life. It's in the world and it's agile. Remaining engaged, now called elderhood, is the opportunity where you can reevaluate your life, revision it, and maybe that age group can be a group that will join teachers and help there, just as we heard in a little while ago. Generation Z and the millennials are still interested in careers, yet much more on their own terms. The future being really agile, an agile learning mindset, in, out, learning things just in time, like creativity. Creativity is what adds value to knowledge. And by the World Economic Forum, it rose from 10th to 3rd place, and by 2020, it's only 45 Mondays away. Creativity is an art, and I'm using this 1908 painting by Henri Rousseau as an example to illustrate that rate of change. Aviation has changed drastically. Forward 110 years, Boeing unveiled a hypersonic airliner project that will take the 6,500 miles from LA to Auckland in 2 hours. Now, some skills have stayed the same once you learned. Fishing, you're still good. Yet, my question, why is education still the 1908 factory model that we have today? My first days in teaching, or first weeks, not just days. I wish it would have been days, but it was weeks. They were really rough, yet it was my skills and my experience that saved me, and I could translate that or convey that to my students, quickly realizing that we needed to, in order to allow for full learning, the full potential of learning, not just in the classroom, but really out of the classroom, we needed to really bulldoze some walls and silos. Now, looks drastic. Just look at this with a positive lens of disruption. And after all, every best practice today, wasn't it a disruptor at once? Disrupting is really what we did. We had a poster competition. It specified 18 by 24. And my students, I just asked them, why can't it be 3 inches thick and look like a book? So 15 of them collaborated, created this poster. It's actually 4D. When cranked, there's a bobbing bookmark. And we won. Now I want you to close your eyes and imagine 9 teenage girls. They call themselves the shop girls. They're from a small rural town. Their goal is to build a car to compete in a global fuel efficiency competition, and their knowledge of making things is very, very little. Open your eyes. This is their creation. Their second-generation car. It's a carbon fiber car that will take you from Vancouver, BC to San Diego on 1 gallon of fuel. That is 1,115 miles to the gallon. Now that is mastery. Mastery way beyond what basic education provides. And it was beautifully summarized in driver Maya's nationally award-winning essay, where she concluded, by chancing failure, we achieved something great. And that little nugget of knowledge gained is really what moved our population or our civilization forward, and it is learning. These 9 girls, they were invited to showcase their car at the Aspen Ideas Festival. They're featured in a documentary movie. They're in an episode of Jay Leno's Garage. And yet, not everything was smiles along the way. They really struggled with applying their academic knowledge combined with what they just learned hands-on to build something from nothing. Equally, I struggled early on when at 9 teenage girls at 6:30 in the morning, 0 period class, people skills. That was my struggle. So it is these experiences, broad experiences, hands-on, real to the world, that set them, all of them, well apart. 3 of 9 to be accepted to Ivy League schools. Shantae was the first one to go to MIT and has since graduated in engineering. Learning literally needs to happen to all of the stakeholders outside, and it needs to happen in distributed leadership, something that you frequently see in the working world, really rare in education. Here, the co-ed team took our second car to the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, and this car is now, I can proudly say, on display at the LeMay Car Museum in Tacoma. We took the cars next door to the 5th graders. They built little propeller cars, same format of competition, work as teams, and they were made from recycled materials. The top 3 winners got a ride in our urban car. Low liability insurance, you drive around the yard in the school, but this is what it sounds like. So those 3 girls came over as 5th graders. Wonderful. I mean, this is really great moments of my experience. Yeah, 1 in 4 5th graders is already disengaged from school. Make that 2 in 10 by grade 10. Now, learning, unlearning, relearning really needs to start early in childhood, and it's a mandate for workforce survival. Did this come unannounced? We often avoid the question of whether something is worth doing by going right to the question, how do we do it? That was a quote from Peter Block in his book, The Answer to How is Yes. Question formulation is a skill because all the answers are on the internet. The questions are not. So taking that question asking to this picture, of course, being automobile, I took this. There's a little note, says Werner cars. I made this into a deconstructed math lesson. Inspired by Dan Meyer's talk, TED Talk, math class needs overhaul. They got 5 pieces of information. They got this picture, where it was taken, how many parking stalls it spans. You can work on your own, collaborate, and you can use any resources. First question, what are we supposed to do? First answer came within 2 minutes, the correct result. Some of them did not have an answer at all. And it was the same experience with 35 math teachers at a conference. The challenge here is they had to ask questions, creative questions to find the solution and not just find the correct answer. Curious how long this thing is? 19 parking stalls equal 260 feet measured on Google Map. That's how the student did it in Google Tools. This is my most recent unlearn and relearn experience driving on the other side of the road in New Zealand. No, it's not a reversed thing, it's real. And it was my friend and future education futurist, Francis Valentine, invited me for 1 month to New Zealand to be immersed in modern learning. Wonderful, wow, great experience. I got to join classes in her 2 venues on digital learning, contemporary education, tech futures, and then at Hobsonville Point Secondary School, I observed firsthand how New Zealand embraces a learner-centered environment. Both teachers and students learn together, learn and grow in an environment where the government trusts educators to educate. We moved on from there. The Haeta Community Campus in Christchurch invited us to the Future of Learning Conference. First day, it was a 3-day conference. First day was 80-20 mix of industry and educators, and 200 educators really experienced the future with this. Soul Machines introduced us to a digital human. And that was fascinating, something that hasn't really, this technology wasn't around 4 years ago. When elementary kids were exposed or introduced to another digital human teacher, they said Siri is he is so much better than Siri's. So that was my aha moment when I saw where the modern world is going and what I've been doing. Tuakana Tena is Maori. It's elder teaches younger. Yet when the roles reverse, the younger person becomes the teacher and the older person becomes the learner. This group, working with collaborative, with the young people, led to this mosaic project. It's documenting all of one person's learning as a mosaic, multi-dimensional curriculum vitae, digital, on blockchain, starting in kindergarten. These are your 2022 skills. Too many? What about just two? Problem solving and leadership. Yuval Harari has one for the whole century. The ability to reinvent yourself. IBM CEO Ginny Rometty recently described that with what they do at IBM. They no longer have an annual skill inventory, it's now quarterly. They have to move, it really relates to the emerging fast goals, frequently discussed, ambitious, specific, and transparent. Anything new? Sal Khan in 2011 at Aspen said, skills over credential, let people learn how they learn. By 2022, 100 days, every employee has to take 100 days of upskilling and relearning. Where does that take us? Keep being curious. Your word for today is cottywomple. No questions asked. I was supposed to spell it. It starts with a C and ends with oddywomple. Make it fast, stay engaged, embrace the change and the possibility, because 2022 is only 149 Mondays away. Thank you.